neurochemistry. Your hormones and even your gene expression are always equal to how you think, how you act, and how you feel. Your personality creates your personal reality. Your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. Your personality creates your personal reality. Most people try to change their life, their personal reality, without changing themselves, their personality. One of the biggest problems that I discovered in the process of personal transformation is that most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it doesn't work. You literally have to become someone else in order to change your life. You have to change. You have to change your personality. You have to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and change it. You have to become conscious of your unconscious habits and behaviors and modify them. You have to become aware of how you have been feeling and emotionally reacting to the same circumstances in your life and shift your emotional states. Neurological networks. Anytime you learn something new, nerve cells or neurons in your brain make new connections and new hardware is installed to reflect what you are learning or experiencing. There is a principle in neuroscience that says nerve cells that fire together wire together. The repetition of firing and wiring the same thoughts, the same behaviors, and the same emotions begins to hardwire your brain into a very finite signature, which becomes your identity or personality. When you do something over and over, the act of repeatedly firing and wiring creates a neurological network in your brain. Those clusters of neurons that have been assembled into patterns become more automatic, and in time, the hardware becomes a software program. Everything that has a neurological network in your brain is known to you. Hardware plus repetition software program. By the time you're 35 years old, 95% of who you are is a set of unconscious, automatic, memorized programs. When it comes time to change, most people try to use 5% of their conscious mind to go against 95% of what they have memorized subconsciously. You could say, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm abundant, but the body will never believe it. The body says no, you're miserable because that is what it has been programmed and conditioned into being. These new happy thoughts never get past the brainstem to influence the body because mind and body are in opposition. For true change to happen, you have to enter the subconscious mind where these programs exist. You will learn how to do it in future lessons. The loop of thinking and feeling. As you think certain thoughts, the brain produces chemicals that cause you to feel exactly the way you were thinking. Once you feel the way you think, you begin to think the way you feel. The redundancy of this cycle is the conditioning process that creates familiar hardwired thoughts in the brain and conditioned feelings in the body. Thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body, and how you think and feel creates your state of being. To change is A, to be greater than your environment, to be greater than your body, to be greater than time, environment. If something in your outer world is controlling your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, it means you are a victim to the circumstances in your environment. Most people wake up every single day and see the same people, go to the same places, and do the same things at the same time. It is no longer their personality that is creating their personal reality. Their personal reality is creating their personality. Their environment is controlling the way they think, feel, and act. When you react to the same conditions in your life and you think and feel equal to your environment, or the same way you always do, you will keep creating the same life. If things go well, you'll feel good, but if things go poorly, you'll feel bad. To change is to be greater than the circumstances in your environment. What is the environment made of? Bodies, people, objects, things, and places. For the most part, all of these are known to you. Body. To be greater than your body means to be greater than the thinking, feeling loop that creates the conditioning process where the body has been subconsciously conditioned to become the mind of the emotions of the past. The conscious or unconscious repetition of combining the same thoughts and feelings conditions the body to subconsciously become the mind. Now the body is literally in the past. 2. To be greater than your unconscious, habituated programs. If you follow the same routine every day, and you think the same thoughts that lead to the same choices, and you demonstrate the same actions which lead to the same experiences, which produce to the same feelings, your body is now on autopilot. and it's dragging you into the same predictable future based on what you did in the past. You are living in a habit of being yourself. A habit is when you have done something so many times, you no longer have to consciously think about it. Your body, as the subconscious mind, knows how to do it better than your conscious mind. In other words, a habit is when the body has become the mind. In a sense, your routine life causes you to lose your free will to a series of automatic unconscious programs. Time. When you stop thinking about the predictable future, the known, your schedule, where you need to be at a certain time, how you anticipate an event unfolding, etc., or the familiar past, also the known, what happened yesterday, how you felt after something that happened a few days ago, how you replay an event in your mind, etc., then you enter the sweet spot of the generous present moment, the unknown, where all possibilities exist. You will learn exactly how to do this in the upcoming lessons. Reflection. In order for true change to happen, you must become familiar with your old programmed self and become so conscious of who you have been that you don't go unconscious ever again. Take some time to deconstruct your present personality that is connected to your present personal reality. What old thoughts do you need to stop thinking? Thoughts like, I can't, I don't have enough time, I'll start tomorrow, I want to give up. What habits and behaviors do you have to stop demonstrating? Actions like complaining, blaming others, making excuses, rushing through things. What familiar feelings do you have to stop experiencing? How do you frequently feel? What emotions do you experience on a regular basis? What are the familiar feelings that keep you from believing in your future? The first step to change is to become conscious of who you are. Lesson 3, stepping into the unknown. To truly change, you must become conscious and aware of who you really are. Becoming conscious of your unconscious self is called metacognition. The act of observing your automatic programs, unconscious states of mind and body, means you are no longer the program. The first step to change is becoming conscious of your unconscious thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. Being unconscious is being in a program. When you can become so conscious of your old personality that you no longer go unconscious to it, you are mastering your old personality self. When you master your personality, you change your familiar past-present personal reality, as well as your predictable future-present personal reality. Most people wait for crisis, trauma, disease, or diagnosis to make a change in their lives. Why wait until you are at your lowest denominator to begin creating the life you want? Why not become inspired by a vision of the future, elevate your emotional state, and begin the process of change? To condition your brain and body into a new future, you must combine a clear intention, a vision of who you want to be, or a new experience you want in your life, with an elevated emotion like love, gratitude, awe, inspiration, and joy. It only takes a thought combined with a feeling, a memory, or an image in your mind, and an emotion, a stimulus and response, to condition your brain and body to biologically look like the new unknown future has already happened. Crossing the river of change. The hardest part about change is not making the same choices that you did the day before. The moment you decide to change something about yourself or make a new choice to do things differently, you are stepping into the river of change. Get ready, because it is going to feel uncomfortable. The uncertainty you feel when you make a new choice in your life means you are leaving the familiar known biology of the brain and body and stepping into the unknown. In the unknown, the only way you can predict the future is to create it. Crossing the river of change. The unknown is the perfect place to create from. Reflect on a time when the voices in your head held you back from creating change in your life. What or who did you blame? Things like, this is too hard, I'll start tomorrow, I will never change. It's my ex's fault, it's my mother's fault, I don't have enough time. How long is it going to take? If you respond to these old familiar thoughts as if they were true, those same thoughts will lead to the same choices, which will lead to the same behaviors, which will create the same experiences, which will produce the same feelings and emotions. As a consequence, most people will say, this feels right. Actually, what they are unconsciously saying is, this feels familiar, or this feels comfortable. From one state of mind and body to another, when you can stop firing and wiring old thoughts, you weaken their connections in your brain. Now you are no longer making the same choices, no longer creating the same neurochemistry, no longer producing the hormones, and no longer experiencing the same feelings in the body. You are no longer signaling the same genes with the same behaviors and emotions. When you can begin firing and wiring new thoughts, you begin to install new neurological hardware in your brain. If you keep doing this, over time, that hardware will become a software program, and that will be the new voice in your head. What behaviors do I want to demonstrate? The act of mental rehearsal changes your brain to look like you already did what you reviewed in your mind. If you keep practicing, it will become more automatic, and you will begin to prime your brain to more naturally act that way. By installing new neural hardware, your brain will no longer be a record of the past. It will become a map to a new future. When you can create elevated emotions that connect you to your new future, you will teach your body emotionally what your future will feel like before it happens. Your body is so objective that it will not know the difference between the real-life experience that creates those heart-centered emotions and the emotions you are creating by thought alone. When you keep practicing cultivating those emotions every day, you will feel like your new future has already happened. When you go from the old self to the new self, there is a neurological, biological, chemical, hormonal, and genetic death of the old self. Biological model of change. Familiar past, new future. Unlearning, breaking the habit of being yourself, pruning synaptic connections, unfiring and unwiring, unmemorizing an emotion in the body. Losing your mind, becoming familiar with the old self, deprogramming, living in the same past old energy, relearning, reinventing a new self, sprouting new connections, firing and wiring, reconditioning the body to a new mind. Emotion, creating a new mind, becoming familiar with the new self, reprogramming, creating a new future, new energy. Two models of reality. Waiting for something outside of you to change how you think and feel is the Newtonian model of cause and effect. This familiar paradigm of reality means you would wait for your new relationship to feel love. Wait for your wealth to feel abundant. Wait for your healing to feel wholeness or gratitude. Wait for your mystical experience to feel awe. In this model of cause and effect, most people spend their whole life waiting for something outside of them to take away their feelings of lack or emptiness and to make them feel better inside of them, believing they have no influence over their reality. They become victims to their life. The quantum model of creating reality is changing how you think and feel to create a new outcome. This progressive paradigm is about causing an effect, and it means the moment you begin to feel abundant, you are generating wealth. The moment you're in love with yourself and your life, you begin to draw an equal to you. The moment you start feeling gratitude and wholeness, your healing begins. The moment you feel awe, the mystical experience finds you. Becoming familiar. The word meditation means to become familiar with. In this work, you will use meditation to. We become so familiar or conscious of your unconscious thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that you will no longer go unconscious to those hardwired thoughts, routine habits, and automatic emotional reactions in your waking day. Become so familiar with a new self by changing the way you think, act, and feel that you will install new circuitry in your brain and condition your body emotionally into a new future before it happens. You will remind yourself who you do want to be so many times that being your new personality will become easy, automatic, and effortless. Meditation suggestions. Choose a quiet place to sit where you will not be disturbed. Turn off lights or wear an eye mask. Do not meditate in your bed. Choose another area that is not associated with sleep. Sit upright in a comfortable position where you will not fall asleep or be distracted by discomfort in your body. Loosen any binding clothing. Remove your watch. There is no time where you are going. Simply follow the instructions in the meditation without analyzing. Remember, every time you settle your brain and body down, it's a victory. If you notice your thoughts drifting, you have done nothing wrong. Simply become conscious of it and return back to the guidance in the meditation. That's another victory. There is no such thing as a bad meditation. There is only you overcoming you. Reflection. Revisit what you wrote about your old self at the end of Lesson 2. Is there anything you would like to add? Have you become more aware of your old thoughts, habits, and feelings since completing that exercise? Next, reconstruct your new personality and become familiar with your new self. What new thoughts do you want to fire and wire in your brain? What new behaviors and actions do you want to demonstrate? What new emotions would you choose to feel every single day? Write down a few impressions after completing Meditation 1, becoming familiar with. What did you do well? What do you want to do better or different next time? What are you proud of, and where are you grateful for your efforts? Lesson 4. Creating a new future. All creations begin with a new thought, a vision, or an open-ended question to self that speculates possibility. Questions like, what would it be like to be healthy? What would it be like to be wealthy? What would it be like to have a mystical experience? How can I create a new career? What is my vision of a new, fun, and loving relationship? When you ask yourself these kinds of questions, you turn on the frontal lobe. Let's call these types of questions frontal lobe questions. The frontal lobe has 3 important functions that are relevant in this course. 1. The frontal lobe is the creative center of the brain. It is designed to answer open-ended, speculative questions that we ask ourselves when we are examining new possibilities, like the ones listed above. 2. When we are truly focused, the frontal lobe acts as a volume control so we can move beyond our associations to space and time. The frontal lobe is the area of the brain associated with paying attention, and paying attention is being present. This is how we move into the present moment. 3. The frontal lobe makes it possible for us to become conscious of our unconscious thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. We called this ability metacognition at the beginning of Lesson 3. Metacognition is observing your thoughts without letting them slip by your awareness unnoticed. The frontal lobe is the boss, the CEO, the symphony leader of the brain, the marvel of our evolutionary development, the crowning achievement of the human being because it is the largest in humans, the powerhouse of our brain, the part of our brain that holds the responsibility for our consciousness, will, and purpose. The frontal lobe is the doorway through which we can break repetitive cycles. The frontal lobe is where we hold our intentions, our intentional thoughts, choices, behaviors, experiences, and emotions. When you ask yourself an open-ended creative question to explore a new possibility, your frontal lobe is responsible for answering that question. As the symphony leader of the brain, it can call up many different associated circuits wired throughout the brain. These pieces of neurological hardware have been wired in your brain based on the vast amount of knowledge you have learned as well as memories of events that you have previously experienced throughout your life. Your frontal lobe will seamlessly piece all of them together into an image in your mind. When the brain freezes this new picture in your mind, it's called intention. You are selecting a new potential reality in the quantum field. When you focus on that clear intention, your brain will start to animate that vision and bring it to life, and you will start to feel the emotions of that future ahead of the actual real-life event. When you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you can change your state of being from the same familiar thoughts and feelings to thinking and feeling in a new way. Remembering your future. To begin, select a new possibility in the future. Once you are clear on what it is that you want to bring to life and begin to feel the elevated emotions of that future, you are changing your state of being. The more you can move into an elevated emotional state, that is, the more you are emotionally altered from your new intentional creation, the more you will pay attention to the picture that you are creating in your mind. Now you are beginning to brand that new experience neurologically in your brain and condition that emotion into your body. If you keep doing this every single day, there will be evidence in your brain and body to look like that experience has already occurred. Can you believe in a future that you can't see or experience with your senses yet, but you have thought about enough times in your mind that your brain is literally changed to look like the event has already occurred? The latest research in neuroscience says it is absolutely possible. You can change your brain just by thinking differently. Since there are infinite potentials in the quantum field, can you select a new potential and emotionally embrace that future reality throughout the entire day? You would no longer be looking for future reality before it's made manifest. Can you do this to such a degree that your body as the unconscious mind, because it is so objective, doesn't know the difference between the real-life experience that is creating the emotion and the emotion that you're creating by thought alone? Can you do this to such a degree that your body begins to change genetically to look like that experience has already happened? The latest research in epigenetics says you can change your body just by thinking differently. If you started every day with a meditation in which you connected to the intentional thoughts and feelings of your future, and if you were able to maintain that modified state of mind and body throughout the entire day, you would no longer be looking for your future. You would feel like your future has already happened, because you are feeling the emotions of it. You are no longer separate from your vision. You are no longer in polarity, duality, or lack, waiting for something outside of you to take away the feelings of emptiness or separation. If you can maintain this modified state of mind and body the entire day, over time you will start to receive feedback from the environment. Surprising and unusual things will begin to show up in your life, and they will come in a way that you least expect or predict, because if you can predict it, it's nothing new. Now you will start paying more attention to what you did inside of you that is creating the effects outside of you, which will inspire you to do it again. As new opportunities, coincidences, synchronicities, and experiences flow to you, you will believe more that you are the creator of your life instead of the victim of your life. You know that true changes happen when you look at your past and you don't want to change a single thing. You understand that you had to go through all of the challenges in your life to bring you to your moment of freedom. That's the moment the past no longer exists. Reflection. Practice meditation 1. Becoming familiar with, again, and continue to become familiar with your old self and become familiar with your new self. What did you do well? What do you want to do better or different next time? What are you proud of, and where are you grateful for your efforts? Lesson 5. Finding the present moment. These days, there is a lot of talk about being present or being in the now. While most people understand generally what this means, in this lesson we will develop a different understanding of the concept. Finding the present moment will require that you get beyond everything known in your physical material world. In order to fully understand this concept, let's first explore how we get caught up in the familiar past and the predictable future. How the body becomes the mind. You learned in Lesson 2 that your brain is a record of the past. It is a living artifact of everything that you have learned and experienced up until this moment. All of your memories are past experiences that have been etched in your brain and are connected to different people, objects and things at certain times and places. When you recall a memory, your brain is thinking in the past. Most people think by remembering past memories. Remember from Lesson 2 that everything known that you have experienced in your life has a neurological network in your brain, and every memory also has an emotion associated with it because you have experienced them. Because emotions are the end product of an experience, the moment you remember a past event, you begin to feel unhappy, discouraged, frustrated, or resentful, and now your body is in the past. Most people wake up every morning reaffirming the same emotional state of being because they have been unconsciously doing that for days, months, or even years. When they wake up in the morning, they remember the problems in their life, and their body begins to feel the emotions associated with that memory. Combining a thought and a feeling, a memory and an emotion, a stimulus and a response, starts the conditioning process. This is how the body becomes conditioned to the mind of that emotion. By repetition, it memorizes the familiar emotion. Since emotions are a record of the past, once the body becomes the mind of any emotion, the body is literally in the past. The body is so objective that it believes it is living in the same past experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If you cannot think greater than how you feel, feelings have become the means of thinking, and you are feeling familiar emotions from the past, then you are thinking in the past. If you believe that your thoughts have something to do with your destiny, then your past is going to be your future. Your past becomes your future. Most people start their day in exactly the same state of being as the day before, in an unconscious habit of being themselves. A habit is a redundant set of automatic unconscious thoughts, behaviors, and emotions acquired through frequent repetition. A habit is when you have done something so many times that your body knows how to do it better than your conscious mind. For example, you wake up in the morning and reach for your cell phone. You check emails, social media, the news, and your texts. Then you go through a series of routine behaviors. You get out of bed on the same side, go to the toilet, and head to the kitchen to make coffee. While it is brewing, you let the dog out. You have a cup of coffee and eat a little breakfast. Then you shower, get dressed, and drive to work. At work, you see the same people and you do the same things over and over: emails, meetings, calls, and so on. On the way home, you stop at the same grocery store and you buy the same food. In the evening, you sit in, figure 5.1, the same chair and watch the same TV shows. Then you call your friend to complain about your day. You brush your teeth in the same way. You get into bed on the same side, look at your phone again, and then go to sleep. The next morning, you wake up and do the same habitual routine again. Your body is on autopilot, and it is dragging you into the same predictable future based on what you did in your past. Your past will be your future, and you lost your free will to a set of programs. Habits. The recurring, often unconscious and automatic patterns of thoughts, behaviors, and feelings that are acquired through frequent repetition. When you have done something so many times that your body knows how to do it better than your conscious mind, the known or the unknown. If conditioning is based on the familiar past, which is the known, and a habit is the expectation of the predictable future, which is also the known, there is only one place where the unknown truly exists. That is the sweet spot of the generous present moment. Consider this. Where you place your attention is where you place your energy. Therefore, when you put your attention on your problems, you are siphoning energy out of the present moment into the familiar past. When you wake up in the morning and become conscious of all of the things you have to do in your known familiar environment, you are siphoning energy out of the present moment into the predictable future. Thus, you have no energy in the present moment to create anything new. Siphoning energy out of the present moment. Electromagnetic field. All of your energy is commingled in this known timeline. To change is to no longer think in the past and feel the associated emotions that keep the brain and body anchored to the past. To change means to be greater than the habituated programs that keep us connected to a predictable future. True change occurs when you execute a will that is greater than the unconscious programs. To change means you must find the present moment that is the only place where the unknown exists. The formula. In order for you to create something new and create from the field instead of from matter, here are 3 things for you to remember. 1. You have to get beyond your awareness or attention of your body or your identity. 2. You have to forget about your environment. 3. You must reach a point where you lose track of time, finding the sweet spot of the generous present moment. As you take your attention off your body, you go from somebody to nobody. As you take your attention off the people in your life who you identify with, you go from a someone to no one. When you no longer focus on the objects and things in your life, you go from something to nothing. When you stop thinking about the places you live or work, you go from somewhere to nowhere. As you take your attention off of the familiar past or the predictable future, you go from some time to no time. That is the moment you become pure consciousness and enter the door to the quantum field. You are now in the eternal now, the unknown, the sweet spot of the generous present moment where all possibilities exist. In Meditation 2, Finding the Present Moment, you will learn to become no body, no one, no thing, nowhere, in no time. You will learn to get beyond your body, your environment, time, and labor for the sweet spot of the generous present moment, the moment you notice yourself returning back to the known when you think about people, objects, things, or places in your life. Simply become aware that your attention is on the known. Stop and return back to the present moment. Relax your body and put your awareness on infinite space. In the next few lessons, you will continue to build your understanding of this so that when you practice your meditations, you can assign more meaning to what you are doing and why. Reflection. Write down a few impressions after completing Meditation 2, Finding the Present Moment. After you complete the meditation, reflect on what you did really well. If you had another chance to do it again, what would you do differently? Lesson 6. Living in Survival. The first part of the formula is to create brain coherence. Let's begin with discussing brain incoherence so that you understand how a person creates it, and then you can learn how to change it. Living in stress is living in survival. Stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of homeostasis or balance. The stress response is what the body innately does to return back to order. All organisms in nature, including human beings, can tolerate short-term stress. There are 3 types of stress. 1. Physical trauma, injuries, accidents, falls, strains, fatigue, lack of sleep. 2. Chemical toxins, colds, viruses, bacteria, hormones in food, pesticides, heavy metals, blood sugar levels, pollution, overeating. 3. Emotional family tragedies, personal losses, finances, second mortgages, parenting, changes in career, poor job satisfaction, traffic. All of these things knock the brain and body out of balance. When human beings perceive a threat or a danger in their external environment, the brain turns on the fight or flight response, and the body mobilizes enormous amounts of energy to prepare itself for the perceived threat or danger. The adrenal glands become activated, and the body moves out of physiological balance to deal with the imminent danger. The pupils dilate to let more light in, the salivary juices shut down because it is not a time to digest, the heart and respiratory rates increase, and blood is mobilized to the extremities, etc. Now the body is in a state of emergency. This state requires an enormous amount of the body's vital resources. When the stress response is normal and healthy, most of us can return back to balance and order once the episode ends. However, when you are constantly reacting to everything in your life, survival becomes your state of being. When you continue to turn on the stress response by reacting to traffic, to your ex, or to the news and you can't turn it off, now you are headed for some kind of physical, chemical, or emotional breakdown or disease. That's because no organism can live in emergency mode for an extended period of time. What was once a very adaptive survival state now becomes a very maladaptive state, becoming an addict to stress. Over time, the rush of energy that the stress hormones produce can cause you to become dependent on that surge of energy in order, wake you up, and feel more stimulated. Now you need the problems and conditions in your life to reaffirm your dependence on those chemicals. That means when you associate your emotional reactions to the circumstances in your life, the bad job, the poor relationship, the news, etc., in order to give the brain and body a rush of energy, it's very possible that you can become addicted to a life you don't even like. Here are some examples of the survival emotions that are derived from the hormones of stress: anger, aggression, hatred, frustration, impatience, resentment, competition, envy, jealousy, fear, anxiety, worry, pain, suffering, guilt, shame, hopelessness, and powerlessness. Here are some great questions regarding the addiction to stress in your life. What emotions could you be addicted to? Are there certain emotions that you have trouble stopping yourself from feeling? How do you use your environment, the same people, objects, and things at different times and places, to keep these emotions going? Can you see yourself in the same environment without the same emotional response? Imagine how you could change your emotional response. The power of your thoughts. Human beings, because of the size of their frontal lobe, can turn on the stress response by thought alone. You can think about your problems and produce the same chemistry as if the event was actually occurring. If you can turn on the stress response by thought alone, you can become addicted to your own thoughts. Now you are knocking your brain and body out of balance by thought alone. Becoming materialists. The rush of chemistry triggered by the stress response heightens your senses and causes you to narrow your focus and pay more attention to all of the elements in your outer world. That's because that is where the perceived danger exists. Therefore, when you live in survival, the rush of energy causes you to feel your body more. You put all of your attention on the environment, people, objects, things, places, and you become over-focused on time. Since where you place your attention is where you place your energy, all of your attention and energy are now invested in this three-dimensional reality, and you have to play by the rules of Newtonian physics, which means everything you want to create is going to take time. In fact, you have to plan and predict how long you have to work or how much you have to save in order to pay for the new experience or thing that you want to create in your life. When you are constantly living in survival, your body draws from the invisible electromagnetic field of energy around your body and turns that energy into chemistry. This causes the field around your body to shrink and you become more like matter and less like energy, more particle, less wave. When you are living in survival, you feel separate from everyone and everything, and the only way to create anything in your life is by matter, you as a body, trying to influence matter. When you create matter to matter, you always try to force, control, manipulate, attempt to predict, fight for, and compete for outcomes. That is because you feel separate from your dreams. If you can turn on the stress response by thought alone, then your thoughts can literally make you sick. If your thoughts can make you sick, is it possible that your thoughts can make you well? Incoherence in the brain. What triggers a stress response? Not being able to predict something. A loss of control. The perception that something is getting worse. The moment you trigger a stress response, the arousal of stress hormones activates the brain and body to become over-aroused. In an attempt to control and predict everything in your life, You quickly shift your attention to all the known elements that make up your known environment, from your boss to your kids to your co-workers, to running errands to your cell phone to your emails, and to all of your problems. Since each of these different elements in your known life has a neurological network in your brain, because you have experienced them, as you quickly shift your attention between these things, like a lightning storm in the brain, different compartments in your brain begin to fire out of order or very incoherently. When your thinking brain is firing incoherently, there is a loss of energy in the brain. When your brain is incoherent, you are incoherent. When your brain isn't working right, you're not working right. The difference between coherent and incoherent brain waves, figure 6.1. When your brain is incoherent and you are living in survival, you will select the worst-case scenario in your mind and prepare for that future by embracing emotions like fear, worry, anxiety, or hostility. If you are always preparing for the worst, there's a better chance of survival. Convergent to divergent focus, open focus. Because stress chemicals heighten your senses, you narrow your focus on your known material world to focus on whatever person or object at a certain time and place it is causing your reaction. Breaking the habituation of living life from a narrow, convergent focus of putting all of your attention on the material world to a broad, divergent focus on nothing or energy. Remember, reality is both particle and wave, causes the brain to change dramatically and move into a more coherent state. When you learn to do this properly, you can learn how to move into the present moment and create from the field instead of from matter. You will learn exactly how to do this in upcoming lessons. Reflection. Write down a few impressions after completing meditation 2, finding the present moment. After you complete the meditation, reflect on what you did really well. If you had another chance to do it again, what would you do differently? Lesson 7. Brain coherence. To create brain coherence, you first need to get beyond yourself, beyond your identity, your personality, and your same thoughts, behaviors, and emotions, and linger as an awareness in the place of nothing known or physical. In quantum physics, it's called the vacuum, the void, because it is empty from anything material. As you have learned in previous lessons, you must take your attention off of everything known and find the sweet spot of the generous present moment. Go from somebody, someone, to nobody, no one, something, no thing, somewhere, nowhere, sometime, no time. This is your door to the quantum field. You can't enter as a somebody, you must enter as a nobody, as pure consciousness. Understanding brain waves, beta. More attention is on your outer world than your inner world. You are using your analytical mind. You are aware and conscious. You are processing sensory information. You have an inner voice in your head. There are 3 kinds of beta brain wave patterns. Low-range beta, high-range beta, mid-range beta. You are relaxed, reflective, you perk up and become. You are in a highly arousal, more vigilant and aware state, and your body is and concentrating, producing stress chemicals. You are demonstrating, you become more, you are in emergency mode, conscious and a heightened state of aroused. Rational thinking, brain activity. You can learn, remember, your outer body and a healthy state of beta. This is not a time to learn brainwave patterns or create. It is a time to run, fight or hide. You cannot consciously change when you're in high beta. Why? In this state, you are altered by the self-preservation chemicals of survival. You have no attention to your inner world. You are fixated on the outer world and obsess about your problems. You are feeling emotions derived from the stress response like anger, fear, impatience, frustration and pain. It is hard to think clearly or learn anything new because very little new information can enter your nervous system that is not equal to your emotional state. Learning is not relevant in survival. It's time to run, fight or freeze. Figure 7.1. You spend most of your waking day in some form of beta brainwave patterns. However, when there is less sensory information coming in, your brainwaves will slow down and move from beta to alpha. Alpha. More attention is on your inner world than your outer world. A state of imagination. The thinking analytical mind slows down, a light meditative state. The brain's creative state. As brain waves continue to slow down, you will move from alpha to theta brainwave patterns. In theta, the door to the subconscious mind opens up completely. This is where you can rewrite the program. Theta. The body is asleep and the conscious mind is awake. You are half awake, half asleep, a twilight or lucid state. You are more suggestible because the door between our conscious and subconscious mind is wide open. It's more of a deep hypnotic state. Delta, deep sleep. You are not consciously aware. An important time when your body restores itself. Figure 7.2. Getting beyond the analytical mind. One of the main purposes of meditation is to slow down your brainwaves and move beyond the analytical mind. Brainwaves getting beyond the analytical mind. The analytical mind separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind. When you change your brainwaves, you move beyond your analytical mind. You enter the operating system where emotional conditioning and unwanted subconscious programs exist. From there, you can create a new program, mentally rehearse a new behavior, and reprogram a whole new way of being. Up until this point, you have already been practicing the first part of the formula creating brain coherence. Sensing space and going from a narrow focus to a broad focus not only brings you into the present moment, but it also creates more coherence in the brain. Between the ages of 6 and 7, the analytical mind begins to form. The analytical mind acts as a barrier to separate the conscious mind from the subconscious mind, and it usually finishes developing somewhere between 7 to 12 years old. The total mind is made up of 5% conscious mind and 95% subconscious mind. The conscious mind is primarily logic and reasoning, which gives rise to our will, faith, creative abilities, and intentions. The subconscious mind comprises our myriad of positive and negative identifications and associations, which give rise to hardwired thoughts and habits, behaviors, skills, beliefs, and perceptions. One of the main purposes of meditation is to go beyond the conscious mind and enter the subconscious mind in order to change self-destructive habits, behaviors, beliefs, emotional reactions, attitudes, and unconscious states of being. Creating brain coherence. When you open your focus or your attention to energy or space, instead of matter, the act of sensing the space around you causes you to stop analyzing and thinking, and you move from beta into alpha brainwave patterns. However, not just any kind of alpha brainwaves, but more coherent alpha brainwaves. When this happens, different compartments of the brain that were previously subdivided because of the hormones of stress start to become unified. Synchronized coherent alpha brainwaves. Figure 7.7. When the brain starts moving into coherent and orderly alpha brainwave patterns, it resonates in a more holistic state, causing you to move past the analytical mind and into the subconscious mind. As you sense nothing but space, our research shows that you entrain your autonomic nervous system. That's the automatic nervous system that is constantly creating balance and order when you are not living in stress to unify with the unified field. Now the nervous system can function at a higher level or order, and since it controls and coordinates all other systems in the body, it begins to bring your entire body back to homeostasis. What is the blackness? Think of the quantum field as an invisible field of energy and information that exists beyond this space and time. In the quantum field, there are no bodies. There are no people. There are no objects. There are no things. There are no places, and time doesn't exist. There is nothing material in the quantum field. Everything material exists in this three-dimensional reality. Imagine you take away all the bodies, people, objects, things, and places in the universe. You continue to remove the Earth, the Moon, all the planets, the moons on those planets, and the Sun. Now the light from the Sun goes away, and you take away all the stars and light from those stars. When you take away all of the galaxies and everything physical or material in the known universe, all you are left with is infinite black space. We call this the blackness or no thing. That's the void or the vacuum. But just because you can't see something doesn't mean it does not exist. It is filled with frequency, energy, and information. It is known as the wave function in quantum physics. As you open your awareness and sense space, our research shows that you suppress neurological information in your thinking brain neocortex, and energy moves out of the thinking brain down into the limbic brain right underneath the neocortex, which is the seat of your autonomic nervous system. Now you are becoming conscious of your subconscious mind. The flow of consciousness as brain waves change. Figure 7.9. As you learn to regulate your brain waves and slow them down so that you can linger in a place where you are half awake and half asleep, low-level alpha and theta, you can learn to rewrite programs. Reflection. Write down a few impressions after completing meditation 3, creating brain coherence. After you complete the meditation, reflect on what you did really well. If you had another chance to do it again, what would you do differently? Lesson 8. Heart coherence. As you learned in previous lessons, stress causes energy to leave the brain. In this lesson, we'll explore more specifically what happens in the heart. Let's start with how stress creates incoherence in the heart so that you know how to change it. How stress impacts the heart. The arousal of stress chemicals causes the heart to beat faster. When the body prepares for an emergency, the heart becomes quickly activated and it sends blood to your extremities to prepare the body to run, fight, or hide. Now the body is prepared for danger and the heart is racing. But because it was an email that triggered the stress response rather than being chased by a lion, you are sitting still at your desk and you're not running, fighting, or hiding. In a very real sense, you are stepping on the gas pedal, the body saying accelerate, survive, and you are stepping on the brake at the same time. While you are sitting still and pretending everything is okay, the heart pumps blood faster and harder against a closed system. This is the moment that your heart begins to beat out of order. That's when it functions very incoherently. Your vital energy is actually leaving your heart center and moving into the adrenal center. Since your heart is your creative center, this is when you stop creating. You stop imagining. You stop trusting. This is when you stop believing in yourself and possibilities. When energy leaves the heart, there is no energy for the creative process. When the heart is incoherent, we no longer feel the emotions of our future. Figure 8.1. Complements of Heart Math Institute. The more you are conditioned by the hormones of stress, the less you will want to create. When you are in a state of emergency, opening your heart and being vulnerable goes against the survival gene. Many people have had experiences of opening their heart and getting bruised, taken advantage of, or manipulated in some way, and they want to subconsciously protect themselves from having those experiences again. If this has happened to you, opening your heart may take some practice and you may not feel much at first. But with practice, you will learn to bring energy back into your heart. Activate that creative center and feel the emotions of your future. If you practice feeling fear every day, it will be easy for you to feel it on command. The same goes for love, gratitude, kindness, trust, or appreciation. Think of your heart as the creative center of your body. It is. We, the union of polarity or duality. It is where opposites unify as one. I, where wholeness begins. A, the door to more divine aspects of yourself. Two important things happen when energy moves into the heart and it begins to beat more orderly and coherently. 1, there will be dramatic changes in the brain. Heart coherence acts as an amplifier to create brain coherence and sends more energy to the brain. When this occurs, there is energy to create with. Brain waves naturally move out of beta and into alpha, which is a much more creative state. The heart emits a very broad magnetic field. As the field around your body expands, your heart is connecting you to the quantum field. The frequency emanating from the heart carries information which creates something similar to a Wi-Fi signal. Once that field is coherent, you can lay an intention or a thought equal to that frequency. Now you are broadcasting a whole new electromagnetic signature into the field and whatever you broadcast into. The field is your experiment with destiny. That frequency of coherence in the creative center of your heart can carry the thought of your wealth, your health, and your new life. The more you refine your brain coherence and heart coherence, the more you're refining that signal. Figure 8.2. Thought is the electrical charge in the quantum field coherent brain, and feeling is the magnetic charge in the quantum field coherent heart. Sustaining heart coherence. If you can practice sustaining elevated emotions on a daily basis, eventually your body will move out of stress and into balance. This is because the body, as the unconscious mind, is so objective that it believes that the emotion you are experiencing is coming from an experience in your outer environment. Therefore, when you open your heart center, practice feeling an emotion before the experience you are creating and marry it with a clear intention. The body responds as if it's literally in the new future experience. If you finish a meditation and return back to judging the people in your life or get angry in traffic, you are returning back to the energy of your past and disconnecting from the energy of your future. When you return back to this unconscious program of being a victim, allowing your environment to control your thoughts and feelings, you can't expect anything to change in your life. That's because you returned back to the same person and the same energy, thinking and feeling the same way. If instead, you can practice heart coherence and learn to maintain it with your eyes open, independent of the cravings, habituations, and reflexive emotional reactions of the body and the conditions in your outer environment that automatically cause you to feel and think in the same ways as you always do, then you will see things start to appear in your life. These synchronicities, acting as feedback in your life, show you that you are on track to your new future. Your energy is synchronized with a new future, and experiences seem to be coming to you. In the next lesson, you will learn the steps to create heart coherence. Elevated emotions that originate in the heart include emotions like gratitude, appreciation, thankfulness, kindness, awe, inspiration, and joy. Reflection. Practice meditation 3, creating brain coherence again. What did you do well? What do you want to do better or different next time? What are you proud of and where are you grateful for your efforts? Lesson 9, living in creation. Creating from separation. Most people naturally create from a place of separation. When you see something that you want or like and recognize that you don't have it, you experience lack or separation. Naturally, if you want it, you start imagining having it. You automatically create a scene in your mind where you have that thing, but when you open your eyes, you remember you don't have it, and you experience even more lack. Then you try harder. You wish, hope, and pray. In fact, you are unconsciously waiting for the experience to happen to change in your life in order to take away the lack and separation that you feel within. Most people don't understand that they need to change on the inside in order to produce changes in their external world. Creating from the field. Remember, the heart is the center of wholeness, the union of polarity, the opposite of lack. When you create heart coherence, more energy goes to the brain and influences your imagination. Now, you are restoring energy back in the heart and back in the brain. When you practice brain and heart coherence, you move out of a state of survival and into a state of creation. That is where you want to be when you're in creation mode. When you can sustain heart coherence, you will broadcast a signal and feel more connected. When you can maintain brain coherence, you will be able to focus your attention and select a new possibility in the quantum field. When you can be truly present and no longer focused on the knowns in your life, you will be able to create a new thought and combine it with an elevated emotion, a new energy, and broadcast that new signature into the field. How to create heart coherence. Step 1. Heart-focused breathing. Focus your attention on your heart and activate it with your breath. Inhale slowly through your heart. Hold the breath there for a few moments and then slowly exhale through your heart. Notice the energy that builds in your chest. If your mind wanders, keep returning your attention to your heart and your breath. As you breathe slowly in and out of your heart, your body will relax and your brain will move into coherent alpha brainwave patterns. Step 2. Activate and sustain elevated emotions. Continue your heart-centered breath while you begin to cultivate elevated emotions like gratitude, appreciation, thankfulness, care, kindness, a love for life, a joy for existence, or freedom of expression. Practice feeling the specific emotions that you will feel when your future goals are realized. When you feel the emotions ahead of the event, you give your body a taste of that future. Step 3. Tune in to a frequency or energy and connect to it with your heart. Simply radiate your intent. When you feel connected with your heart, you feel like your future is happening to you. You feel connected to the energy of your future. You are no longer looking for an event to occur because you feel the emotions of your future happening in the present moment. Impacts of heart coherence. It creates more energy in the brain. 8E. It activates coherent alpha brainwave patterns. It converts from the sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic nervous system. Throughout different systems of the body, 1,300 to 1,400 different chemicals are released that begin to repair and regenerate the body. The heart sends a signal to the amygdala, which is the survival center of the brain where you experience fear and worry. A coherent heart resets the baseline for trauma and stress in the amygdala. The heart produces a broadened magnetic field that makes you feel connected to the unified field. Coherence in the heart creates more intuition and empathy. Creating from the field. Your door to the quantum field is when you become nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, in no time. This is the moment when you take all of your attention off your known material world, which is mapped in your brain, and put your awareness and attention on the immaterial unknown world of energy and frequency. Practicing moving your attention from a convergent focus, the three-dimensional world, to a divergent open focus, the five-dimensional world, entrains your autonomic nervous system into more order and coherence. When your brain is coherent, your thoughts send an electric signal out into the field. When your heart is coherent, your elevated feeling magnetically draw a future event back to you. And when all of your awareness is on energy instead of matter, and you are connected to source, to the unified field, that invisible field of energy that connects everything physical and material, you can create from the field instead of from matter. If you do this properly and you can get beyond your body, your environment and time, as well as your known personality self, slow your brain waves down to move past your analytical mind and disassociate from everything known, you can create a Wi-Fi signal and begin to synchronize your energy to some new potential that already exists in the quantum field. When there is a vibrational match between your energy and some potential in the quantum field, you will draw experiences to you. You don't have to go anywhere to get your future, because you are playing by a different set of rules. In other words, if you are creating from the unified field, the invisible field where everything material is connected, you are connected to source. So why would you need to go anywhere to get something? You simply would be the magnet to a new destiny. Reflection. Write down a few impressions after completing meditation 4, creating heart coherence. After you complete the meditation, reflect on what you did really well. If you had another chance to do it again, what would you do differently? Lesson 10. Connecting to the field. The quantum field, that invisible field of energy. Connecting to the field. The quantum field, that invisible field of energy and information, at its core, its source, is pure love. Its signature is wholeness or oneness. There is so much order at this 0 point of singularity that it is impossible to experience separation. When you are truly connected to the field, you are no longer dependent on anything outside of you. You realize that the wholeness and love that you feel has been within you all along. The things that you thought you wanted no longer matter. How could you want anything when you feel so whole? You already learned about brainwaves in Lesson 7, but there is one more brainwave pattern that is important in our work. When the brain and heart are synchronized in a state of coherence, and you, as pure consciousness, are connected to these elevated frequencies beyond matter, a very specific state of arousal takes place in the nervous system. When this happens, there is an enormous release of energy from the body up into the brain, which creates highly organized, coherent, very high amplitude states of gamma brainwave patterns. This is when you can experience a transcendental moment. This is a very important moment because the arousal you experience in the nervous system is not coming from any person, thing, or event in the outer environment. That release of energy is coming from within you. In the elegant present moment, you realize that the incredible amount of wholeness and/or love, words limit its description, that you feel has always been within you. It is the most familiar, unfamiliar feeling that you will ever have in your life. It is a state of ecstasy, a state of bliss, a state of being so connected that everything is exactly the way it should be in that moment. Along with this heightened experience of very coherent energy are lucid, profound pictures in your mind. The stronger the new emotion that you are embracing, the more you pay attention to those vivid images in a heightened state of awareness. As a result, you are branding new circuitry in the brain and conditioning your body to higher amplitudes of energy or more elevated emotional states. When you come back to your senses, your spectrum of reality is broadened. You have laid down new circuits to recognize what has always existed, but that you didn't have the circuits in place to perceive. We don't see things how they are, we see things how we are. Our research repeatedly demonstrates that it is the autonomic nervous system, your automatic nervous system, seated right under the thinking neocortex, that experiences this high level of coherent, organized frequency. Since the autonomic nervous system controls and coordinates all of the other systems of the body, New information is being carried as increased frequency in highly coherent patterns and impulses right to a cellular level to all systems in the body. Every cell in the body is now receiving new energy and information. If all disease is a lowering of frequency and an incoherent message, then in one moment your cells can receive a new high-frequency message of wholeness and order. Now, energy is instructing matter, and the body gets a biological upgrade. Once all the cells get this fast, coherent frequency delivered to them, they emit more coherent light and information. This is when eczema, psoriasis, or skin conditions that existed since birth vanish. Tumors and cancer cells throughout the body shrink. Chronic health conditions like Parkinson's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis disappear. Instantaneous change can take place because the more orderly whole patterns of energy from the field are informing matter. Why? Because it's not matter that's emitting a field, it's the field that's actually creating matter. Change the field, change matter. Overcoming yourself. People come to this work for many reasons, some for success and well-being, others for health and wholeness, and others are seeking spiritual meaning and happiness. Over the years we have learned that at our very core, we really all come to this work for one thing, and that is wholeness. When wholeness is reflected in your biology, chemistry, energy, coherence, brain circuitry, immune system, and even gene expression, you are no longer the same person living in lack or separation. It seems as if your past has been washed away. You will have days when you don't want to do the work, and you come up with every excuse not to do your meditation. But the people who create lasting change in their lives are the ones who do the work anyway. Even when there is self-doubt, fear, or judgment, they choose to surrender to love and overcome a little bit more of themselves. It is the act of repeatedly overcoming some aspect of yourself every single day, to overcome, that causes you to ultimately become a new person. When you create from wholeness instead of separation, that is when you will see dramatic changes take place in your life. I'd say it's always worth the effort. Reflection. Practice meditation 4, creating heart coherence again. What did you do well? What do you want to do better or different next time? Lesson 11. Drawing your future to you. In this lesson, you will learn how to draw your future by creating from the field instead of from the 3D habit of matter to matter. To build this model and then use it to its fullest measure, you are going to have to understand that there are two different realms that we create from. One is called space-time, and the other is time-space. Space-time. Space-time is the physical Newtonian world, which is based on our senses. We experience everything in this three-dimensional reality with our senses. As we live, learn, and experience, we can define almost all the elements that make up the material world. Thus, everything becomes known. Space is eternal in this 3D reality. Characteristics of space-time, the dimension of particles and matter. Made up of bodies, people, objects, places, and linear time. All things occupy one position in time and space called locality in physics, with a height, width, and depth. Your senses give rise to your experience of this physical reality. You experience form, structure, mass, and density. The past, present, and future all exist as linear, distinct, separate moments in time. Here, we can remember our past and predict our future. Here in space-time, space is infinite. When you move through space, you experience time. In order to get from one point of consciousness to another point of consciousness, your material body has to move through space, and as you collapse space, you experience time. The greater the distance in the space, the more time it takes to move from one point of awareness to another point of awareness. By the same means, the faster you travel through space, the shorter amount of time it takes. If you know the distance in space you need to travel, and the speed in which to get there, you can predict how long it will take you based on the law of Newtonian, classical physics. Thus, space-time is based on knowns and predictable outcomes. Objects, people, and physical matter all represent separate points of consciousness. When you notice something or someone, the space between you and another thing represents that you are separate from that someone or something. This idea also applies to the separation between two experiences, accomplishing a goal or a shift in belief. If you remember, the more you live in survival, the more you narrow your focus on the material world and use your senses to define reality. As a consequence, the more you live in survival, the more you will experience separation, lack, or duality. See Becoming Materialists from Lesson 6. In addition, when you live in a chronic state of stress, you constantly draw from your vital life force, energy around your body, and it shrinks in time. You become more matter, less energy. Locked into the laws of space-time, when you are matter trying to affect matter, you will fight, force, manipulate, predict, control, struggle, or compete for outcomes. And all of this takes time and energy. To create from the field instead of from matter and draw new experiences to you, you must leave this realm of the third dimension and pass through the eye of the needle into the fourth dimension, which is time. Door to the quantum, 4D. From space-time, 3D, to time-space, 5D. As you move from a narrow-focus matter to an open-focus energy, quantum field, and surrender all aspects of the known personality self, you take your attention away from the external world of people, objects, things, and places. You forget about your body, pain, hunger, drives. You are no longer preoccupied by the familiar past or the predictable future, and you practice turning your attention to the world of energy, frequency, and consciousness. That is the moment when you become no body, no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time. You are disinvesting all of your attention and energy out of this three-dimensional reality that is based on knowns and investing your energy into possibility, the unknown, the eternal present moment. This is what it means to get beyond the self. When you go from the known to the unknown, that is the moment you are entering the door to the quantum field. You cannot enter the quantum field as a somebody. You can only enter as a nobody. To move into the realm of time-space, you must become pure consciousness and be in the sweet spot of the generous present moment. Anything material that is moving faster than the speed of light turns into energy. Time-space. Time-space is the immaterial quantum world, where there is nothing physical. It is an inverse reality based on unknowns, endless possibilities, energy, frequency, connection, consciousness, unity, and oneness. It is the multidimensional universe or the multiverse. In time-space, time is eternal. A, the realm of the unknown. A, the realm of frequency, energy, vibration, thought, information, consciousness. Nothing material exists. Nothing is local in space, in time, non-local. All possibilities exist in the eternal now. You can tune into frequencies and possibilities with your consciousness by becoming aware of them. You experience this reality with your awareness, not your senses. Here you cannot operate as a body. Different dimensions exist as different frequencies in the eternal present moment. As you move through time, you experience different dimensions or spaces. Change the speed of your frequency, vibration or consciousness, awareness, you move through time travel, and different possible realities exist. Nothing is separate. There is no separation between 2 points of consciousness. Everything is connected in an invisible energy whose signature is wholeness. Time is infinite and eternal, meaning there is no separation between past and future. Since there is no space here, which means there is no linear time, it takes no time to move from one space to another or one dimension to another. Everything is happening now. The number of possible experiences is equal to your imagination. In the realm of time-space, we can time travel by changing the frequency of our energy. When you are in this realm and connected to everything, to move from one point of consciousness to another point of consciousness simply requires having a new thought. Since every thought has a frequency, the moment you have a thought in the realm of all possibilities and can become aware of its frequency, energy, you can create from the field instead of from matter. As you change your thoughts and change the frequency of those thoughts, you can move through time and experience different space. It's possible to experience the past, the present, and the future simultaneously by just changing the thought and becoming aware of the frequency. Getting beyond the self. A narrow focus attention is on objects, things, people and places, particle, material, matter, 3D Newtonian world, predictable space-time, a realm of eternal space, state of separation, duality, polarity, and locality, The known limited possibilities, the universe domain of the senses. An open focus attention is on space, energy, frequency and information, wave, immaterial antimatter, 5D quantum world. Unpredictable time-space, a realm of eternal time, state of unity, oneness, wholeness, and non-locality, the unknown, unlimited possibilities, the multiverse domain beyond the senses. Figure 11.1. Becoming a vibrational match. In the realm of time-space where all possibilities exist, you don't actually create anything. You send out a thought with a coherent brain and draw the experience to you by feeling it with a coherent heart and begin to produce an electromagnetic field, a vibrational frequency. When your energy is synchronized with a coherent brain and a coherent heart, and there is a vibrational match, when you are creating from the field instead of from matter, you no longer have to go anywhere to get what you want. Why? Because A, there's nowhere to go here, there is no space and time, and B, you are connected to Source or the unified field, the energy that connects all things material. When your consciousness is merged with the consciousness of the unified field, you draw experiences to you. You are the vortex. Now you are no longer creating from duality or polarity, you are creating from wholeness. And if you are experiencing the elevated emotions of ecstasy, bliss and wholeness, the joy of such emotions would want you to never leave the present moment. In fact, you would believe it is happening to you in the moment, and that's when the magic happens. It happens in the moment. As you take your attention off something, you move into the realm of no-thing, you merge with everything, and thus you can have anything. For a more detailed explanation of space-time and time-space, see Chapter 11 of Becoming Supernatural. Infinite, unknown, space-time, the nexus time-space of the quantum, the realm of the bridge, the realm of eternal, all possibilities, infinite space. The present moment, time, Newtonian world, quantum world, consciousness of, consciousness of, consciousness of. Time is past, present, future, our moment, time discontinuous. Is infinite, eternal, nonsense, transition, getting beyond conscious. Practice meditation 4, creating heart coherence again. What did you do well? What do you want to do better or different next time? What are you proud of, and where are you grateful for your efforts? Lesson 12, mastering the formula. When you begin to master the formula, it makes sense that there should be changes in your body. When you make new connections in your brain by changing the way you think, your neurotransmitters, your neurochemistry, your hormonal expression, and even your gene expression should all change. Epigenetics tells us that the environment signals the gene, so when you do this meditation process properly, you can select and instruct your genes. How? The end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion. So, by embracing the elevated emotions of your future before it's made manifest, you are signaling new genes ahead of the environment. And since genes make proteins, and proteins are responsible for the structure and function of your body, and the expression of proteins is the expression of life. Through this process, you can begin to down-regulate the genes for disease and up-regulate the genes for health. As you practice this method and continue to refine your ability to connect and create from the field, you will come back from your meditations truly changed. Our research has proven this, and if anyone else can do it, so can you. Preparing to tune in. Before you practice the next meditation, it is very important that you get clear on the potential experience that you want to have. As part of this preparation, you will write down your intention on paper, which is important because it solidifies what you want. Remember, all potentials already exist in the quantum field in time-space. You just have to become aware of them and tune in. 1. Identify a new experience that you want to draw to you. Assign a capital letter to it and write that down. Think of the letter as a symbol that represents the specific possibility in your life. Draw 2 squiggly circular lines around the letter to represent the electrical field thought, brain, and the magnetic field feeling, heart, which you will need to generate around your body to match the potential in the quantum. For example, you might choose the letter J for a new job. 2. Next, make a list of your specific conditions for this new potential I reality. This assigns more meaning to the letter and helps you to become even more clear on your intention. The only thing you should not include here is any reference to a time frame, like I need it in 2 weeks. Some specific conditions of your new dream job might be, I own my own company. I collaborate with brilliant people. I am making a difference in the world. I can work from anywhere. I travel for a living. 3. Lastly, create a list of the elevated emotions you will feel when that potential is made manifest. These are the energy of the heart-centered emotions that are going to carry your intent. If you're not sure how you will feel, start with gratitude. Gratitude is a powerful emotion to use for manifesting because we usually feel gratitude after we receive something. Some elevated emotions you will experience when you have your dream job are empowered, unlimited, grateful, free, in awe, in love with life, worthy, joyful. Reminders. You need a Wi-Fi signal. Your brain and heart have to be turned on. They have to be coherent. You need to be so familiar with this new energy that you can do it during your waking day. No person or circumstance should move you from your new state of being. You should start seeing synchronicities in your life in the form of coincidences, opportunities, serendipities, because you have synchronized to a new energy. These events are coming to you. You do not have to go anywhere to get them. Remember, you are tuning in to a frequency, then drawing that experience to you with your heart. Reflection. Write down a few impressions after completing meditation 5, tuning in to a new potential and creating from the quantum field. What did you do well? What do you want to do better or different next time? What are you proud of, and where are you grateful for your efforts? Farewell. Congratulations for taking the time to learn some of the knowledge and practical tools to make lasting change in your personal reality. During this course, I know that you received a lot of information, and you may have some questions. I understand that it's easy to get overwhelmed when you are learning so many different topics. What I recommend is that you deepen your study by either reading one of my books, watching the progressive and intensive online courses, or reviewing the content in this course a few more times. It usually takes some repetition to really wire all of this information into your brain. The more that you understand what you are doing and why you are doing it, the how should get easier. Equally important to reviewing or studying the course content is the practical application, which leads to a greater experience of the knowledge. Experience will allow you to embody the truth of the philosophy that you learned. With time and practice, it will get easier and easier to do this work. It is vital to keep consistent with your meditation practice for a period of time. The payoff for all your work should be changes in either your body, your life, and your future. Think of this course as a way to experiment with your reality. If you change your personality, that is, the way you think, act, and feel, will your personal reality change? If you tune in to a new potential every day and change your energy, what kind of changes will you observe in your life? If you make the time every morning to be a creator, what synchronicities can you draw into your life as a result of creating from the field instead of from matter? Once you experience the feedback in your outer world as a consequence of changing your inner world, you will believe more that you are at cause in your life instead of living at effect. Join the movement of hundreds of thousands of people around the world that are using our formula on a daily basis to create the life they love. I hope you enjoyed the formula on